Yes, there's a line, a famous line, baby, it's cold outside. Well, baby, it's going to be hot outside today. 94 they're calling for later today. Can you believe that, 94? But after that miserable winter, suck it up, get the air conditioner ready, get the water on your head, enjoy it. If you're out golfing today, and urge you to get out and play a little bit, make sure you're wearing a hat and put on that old sunscreen. Good morning, everybody. It's a dog with you on the 17th of August, 2015. Another edition of Weber This Week. We bring back longtime friend and contributor to this show. He's been on a few times, and he's always very informative about the town of Seneca Falls since he sits on the town board. Emil Bove. Emil, good to see you as usual. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be here, Harold.
Well, thank you very much, and we're going to talk to Emil about some issues in regarding the town, what's happening and what isn't happening. And first off, Emil, without further ado, let's talk about the town hall, a much controversial topic over the years. Where are we going to do it? Where was it going to be? You finally got all through that. It's now underway. I believe we can say it's under construction.
Yes, construction started last week. A lot of excavation has been done. We're having a groundbreaking this Thursday, I believe, at noon. So work is underway, and hopefully that issue is behind us, and now the town can deal with other issues.
Let's talk about the town hall for a minute, if you would. What are we looking at far as completion date, ready to go, ready to move in? Is there any procrastinations, about any idea of a timeline?
It'll be sometime next year. I'd be surprised if it was any time before the middle of the summer.
Okay. And, of course, I'm sure everybody's going to be anxious to see it all done and all built up, and it's going to be interesting. And I know I, for one, am kind of glad we're beyond that now, and we will have a new town hall here in Seneca Falls where all the departments can move in and be in a nice, comfortable location. Before we went on the air, Emil Bove, my special guest this morning, hope you had a good weekend, everybody. We were talking about the big celebration coming up this week regarding the Canal. Why don't you go into some of those details and tell us about what's going to be happening?
Well, this Thursday marks the 100th anniversary of the filling of Van Cleef Lake. And we've had a 2-week celebration of that centennial. Carol Ritter, who I hope you all are familiar with, has done a fantastic job with a wonderful committee, and there's been a series of events. But this Thursday evening, there are going to be fireworks about dusk, 9 o'clock or so. There are going to be various dignitaries that ride through Locks 2 and 3 here in Seneca Falls, and the Fireworks Generation Bank is sponsoring the fireworks, and then there's some tasting going on over there at Cafe 19 before the fireworks. So that's the culmination. One thing that was done in connection with this celebration was a study into all the houses that were in the flats in the area that was flooded, and a number of them, at least 25 to 30, were moved up out of that area. Tanya Warren did a very good study. We have beautiful pictures, and we actually identified the houses where they are now and gave the current owners plaques up from the flats, plaques to put on their houses. So it's been a very nice celebration, and thank you, Carol Ritter and her committee.
Well, I was trying to get Carol on the show, but our schedules didn't work out. We had a guest already scheduled for that particular time before she did her lecture speech across the street at the Gould Hotel. By the way, a fine sponsor, a new sponsor of this show, and Sharon Holtland and her team. I'm sure Carol did an outstanding job, and if Carol's checking out the show this morning, we'll get you on sometime down the road. And she's always been I've always been impressed by her work. She does it very thoroughly, and she knows what she's doing. I've always been impressed by that. And speaking of knowing what you're doing, folks, this is sort of a sad moment for me as well with my friend Emil, because Emil, there's been rumors around town about Emil regarding him not running for his board seat. And Emil, thank you for allowing me to bring it up this morning, but this is going to be your final swan song, and as of December 31st, you're no longer going to be a member of the town board of Seneca Falls.
That's right, Harold.
Give us a little thinking of what happened in the background that caused that decision to come about.
Well, part of it is that I promised Laurel Lynn that I would only serve one term. Of course, it's been very challenging, and the fellows that I work with at Medea, Miris, and Ricky also, I think it's part of the decision-making. So for whatever reason, I decided not to run, and I've been saying that all along. It's not anything I decided yesterday, but when I say something, I want to stand by it. So I have been saying that, and I will not be seeking re-election.
Let's talk about when you got on the board. What came to mind, thought? I know you've been a Seneca Falls guy as long as I can recall. We've been longtime friends. What triggered the thought of getting on the board in the first place, and what has been your memories thus far, with the good and bad of working on the board? It seems like a lot of work involved. Seems like a lot of studying involved. Tell us a little bit about the pre-decision to get on the board in the first place.
Well, I decided to run and try to get on the board because I wanted to be part of the implementation of the dissolution. I knew it was going to be difficult. There'd be challenging issues. Some of them would be legal. Some of them would have other implications. So that was my thinking. And looking back, I'm pleased to have been a part of the process. I think it's been very successful. Seneca Falls, there's been some major things, epics if you want to call them, but certainly the period up to 1915 when you had all the factories and everything, and then all of that was destroyed and demolished. And now in 2011, the village was dissolved. That is a huge process, and I think we successfully completed that. So, we're in a new epic now, and I think we were very successful throughout the last 4 years. There's always going to be controversy, but when you think about it, we've got really good department heads. We've got really good bookkeeper, Bev Werfel. Don Wood's done a fantastic job. The people at the wastewater treatment plant, we just hired a new fellow, Joe Tullo. He's very good. Don Bell down at the water plant. Ann Haviland, Nikki Greer, the court system has been reorganized. Done a good job with that. The rec center continues to be a gem for our community, and our engineers have done a great job. So, just looking back, I think it's been very successful. One of the big things we did right off the start, and this is Don Earle's idea, was to have an asset management plan. So all the town's assets, personal property and real property, are in a database and set out over the years projecting when things have to be repaired. We've done some infrastructure reports and improvements. The town's credit rating is now A+. We did a refinance of old bonds that were brought over from the village, and we're going to save over $190,000, they tell us, over the payoff. The tax rate has certainly been, I think, maintained. The town tax rate, as opposed to the combination of the fire or the highway, it's been maintained at a fairly low level, and I think the budget is a reasonable budget considering everything all the services that the town does. We got a wonderful police department.
Yep.
Just done a fine job with that. Not many small communities have an accredited police department. So I may be leaving something out, some of the accomplishments of the board and Don Earle as a supervisor, but I really think it's been a good 4 years. Oh, yeah, we adopted a unified town code. That was really important.
Yeah.
Too.
And, I guess I would be remiss as when you got on the board and the dissolution was happening, the village of Seneca Falls was now going to be the town. Did it go through easier than you thought it would be, or harder, or about what you thought it would be as far as transforming it from a village to a town?
Well, the first thing you have to say is that a lot of decisions were made before December 31st, 2011 that formed the basis for what happened. But after that, things had to be addressed. Just the bookkeeping alone, and I'm going to mention Bev Werfel's name again, just the bookkeeping again, because she had to maintain accounts for the village and the town for a couple of years and had to make everything balance. And then finally we were able to combine everything. And that was a huge task for her. That's an example of something. The town code, Steve Turkett, who recently resigned, he spent hours on producing a unified town code, which we adopted, which we had to have. The police department, there were incredible number of decisions that had to be made. Just for example, when we took over, the old town board and our town board realized about December 1st that there were a number of things that had to be in place before the police department could take. So some of it was done before the 31st of December 2011, and a lot of it was done after the organization. But I think now we have a police department that is the envy of
Yep.
other communities our size.
I had an opportunity, actually invited myself, Stu Peenstra, the chief. When he was on my program, I was always curious to take a look at the building that they currently reside in, near where I live, near where you live. And he was kind enough to host me for at least an hour and showed me all the different areas of the police department as we know it. It's going to change with the new town hall next year. But he couldn't have been nicer. Tim Snyder worked with me and showed me all the gadgets and the new cars. And as I kidded off of the folks that check me out on a weekly basis, if you don't have a good registration and if you don't have good license and all that stuff, insurance and so forth, they got gadgets now that go off in the cars that say, hey, you got a problem, and they're going to get you, baby. They're going to get you. You got no way to escape this now, the new technology, which kind of blows you away. This is 21st century stuff, which I know Jimmy's into that area. So it's pretty neat, and I want to thank Stu. And as Jimmy knows, I walk down the street with, on one side of me, Lieutenant Snyder, and on the other side of me, Chief of Police Stu Peenstra, and here I'm in the middle. And as you know, Emil, I've been here all my life, so everybody knows who I am, and either hates me or loves me and calls me the dog, and they're yelling from cars. It's about time you finally got him. And it was classic. And then we sat in Reds for an hour. You were there that day. And it was quite a nice afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with Chief Peenstra and Snyder. They were great hosts.
They're two great guys.
They are.
They have, like you're saying, they have plate scanners.
Oh, it's amazing.
And so
amazing.
In the cars, they're scanning license plates as they're moving along.
Oh, yeah.
And another thing we bought was
the
speed trailer,
yep.
which they set up, and that has a lot of good features. It actually gives them a printout at the end of the day, what the average speed was, what the highest speed was, so that when people say, well, there's a lot of speeding on Stevenson Street, for example, they set it up there for a day, and at the end of the day, they have all this data to tell the people who are making the claims and the police department so they can adjust their patrols.
That's right. Well, folks, before we take our commercial break, I would be remiss also if I didn't comment about Emil's job. I have an opportunity, along with my wife Mary, to check out the town board via cable system, and I must admit, Emil and myself go back a long time. He is quite outspoken on issues. He is vocal on issues. I love that part of what he does. Whether he's right, wrong, or indifferent, at least he's going to make his comments known, and you can see him and you can hear him via watching it from your home. I've always been impressed by what you do and the way you do it. And I just want to say you're going to be sorely missed by the Weber family. So kudos to you and a great job.
Well, thank you very much. It's this particular board, we've had many good discussions. Not all of them take place on the record, but individual discussions. So it's a pretty good group, the five of us, and it's been an honor to be part of it. I hope that the result has been good it's really all for the community. That's what this is all about. And I really sense recently that, we're past the oh dear, the village is gone. I really feel a positive attitude. I think this summer, as you're walking down the streets, there's a lot of tourists in town.
There are.
You can really notice that as you're walking around. And so I think we're on the right track. And, you combine this with the potential effect of the casino on our community, not only bringing people in, but also on infrastructure. There's going to be major improvements on sewer and water facilities because of this, which is good for the whole community, good for the future of our town. These things need to be done, and the casino, I think, is going to have a very positive effect.
And by the way, an update on the casino, if you missed it, if you just came back from Moscow, a judge has turned down the petition from the Finger Lakes Racino, who claimed the unfair competition or whatever, something in the laws or whatever, and they dismissed that allegation. And I'm not sure I'm using the correct legal terms, as Emil would point out, but certainly that is not going to go anywhere. We all know now the tire folks, the tire board, is working on the environmental decision that they have to get their things back into motion, and that should get clarified. But again, I'm always one of these pessimists. I still think there's going to be people trying to stop what's going to happen out there. I believe, however, eventually it will get done. And even though we were talking, Emil, about January 2016 grand opening of the Lago. I think we might be pushed back several months, but I think it'll be worth the wait.
Well, I'm glad you brought that decision up, because the Albany County judge decided that denied the petition challenging the award of the casino to Lago. So at this point, unless there's something I don't know, that issue is subject to an appeal to a higher court,
right,
which I assume will play itself out here shortly. So I'm hoping that will go. Once that's done, really, then these other issues of SECRA and everything, they'll get resolved one way or the other sooner or later. I think it'll be very difficult to stop it once they have their license and confirming that they were awarded the casino. So I'm very optimistic.
By the way, one thing you did at the last meeting, I watched you perform a couple weeks ago. I was watching it. People from the audience were trying to talk, and since you have a podium with a microphone, you were urging them to get up there to talk so we could hear what they were saying.
Right. Well,
they're talking from the crowd. You can't hear a word they're saying.
Well, one of the things we did was buy a very fine video and audio system. And
sounds good.
You know, it's good, but when someone's in the audience and they want to talk, it doesn't get picked up on these mics. Just like here, it doesn't get picked up if you're not sitting next to it.
Yeah.
So we try to remind people, if you're going to come to the meetings and you want to say something, go up to the podium. There's the mic. That's right. And then it's not just for us; it's for the whole community.
Oh, I agree. But a nice comment, because I could see you pointing to the gentleman. Let's get up to the podium.
You know, Harold, the town of Seneca Falls was actually commended for the fact that we record our meetings and they're put on, I'm not sure what it is, the local access.
Channel 12?
Finger Lakes Television, Channel 12, Time Warner Cable.
Yep.
It's really important. Yeah. I mean, few people come to the meetings, but you can watch the meeting, you understand what's happening, then, it just makes the public more informed about what we're doing.
I'm proud of you getting a new audio system in there. For years, you guys used to try to hold a meeting. I didn't understand a word anybody said. Couldn't hear. It was terrible. It was really archaic before you had the new system.
Right.
It was bad. So you guys really, the expenditure, well worth it. So now we can sit there and watch. So Emil Bove, just if you missed it earlier, he has announced he will not be seeking a new term for the town board of Seneca Falls. And for one person, I'm going to miss him on the board, but I'm sure they'll find a replacement. And if you're maybe you're out there saying, hey, I want to run for that board seat, good luck to you. This is Weber This Week on a Monday, the 17th of August. We'll take our commercial break here from our great sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk about some sports topics and get everybody updated on some things that happened over the weekend. Jason Day wins the PGA Championship. So close, and he finally got over that threshold. We'll be back after this. Cleef Lake National Bank, Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquors, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Cicino's. Live, laugh, eat well. It's the Italian way. It's also the Cicino's way. Place your order today at Cicinos.com. Locations, Main Street, Waterloo, and 401 Exchange Street in Geneva. The Good Hotel welcomes you to come out and enjoy the revitalization of this historical landmark. Wednesdays, don't forget Ladies' Night with special price drinks and half-priced appetizers. Tap is Thursday, and their chef serves a dinner special every night. The Good Hotel in Seneca Falls. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com, awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. Wilson Press, WPress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. And by the way, speaking of Mary, we'll get to the Mary in a situation regarding an item that I'm going to pose to my friend Emil. Certainly, We had lunch at Red's the other day, the Men's Hall of Fame, and you want to laugh. You got to sit near the table of Doc Pageant, Tom Fox, Rich Rickey, and I can't remember who the other gentleman was next to Tom. But I mean, John Panucci was there as well. Oh my God, it was hilarious. Sitting in that booth, Jim, I was crying. These guys were funny, and I didn't know we were going to have lunch plus entertainment. So kudos to those folks. Hey, by the way, Jessica Lahr, current Mrs. America for New York State, they have made a decision where the Mrs. America big one is going to be held. It's going to be held in Las Vegas coming up next month. It's going to be the 20th through the 24th in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, to our friend and our confidant and our colleague here who does her own show on Wednesdays, FLX Weekly, Jessica Lahr. So, Jimmy, they've determined a spot, Las Vegas. So we wish her and Jessica the best in all of her
and
folks.
You can support Jessica by voting. Geez, I don't have the information right here, but if you go to her Facebook page, I think you can find it. And yeah, she's from Geneva, and now she's in a national competition. She won the state competition, Mrs. New York America, and so, imagine if she wins the national.
I would hope so. We're all pulling for you, Jessica, if you're checking us out this morning. Hey, by the way, a few tidbits in the world of sports. Speaking of the Seneca Falls Country Club, the annual Cash Bonanza is coming up this Sunday. It's our big fundraiser, and we certainly want you to be a part of it. For $100, you can buy a ticket, and you get golf opportunities either in the morning or in the afternoon. You get a nice open bar for a couple of drinks. You get a nice buffet. You get a chance to win some cash prizes. That's coming up this Sunday at the Seneca Falls Country Club. I posted on my Facebook page this morning. If you'd like to be a part of it, contact the Seneca Falls Country Club, and that's 315-568-5202. One of the fine folks in the pro shop will get you a ticket for this weekend's big event on Sunday. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, $100 gets you into the tournament with great prizes.
Exactly.
18 holes, dinner after, nice dinner, and then the cash drawings with the first prize is $3,000.
A lot of cash. And reason I'm saying that is myself and my brother won last year, one of the prizes, and Jimmy almost had a stroke handing it out. But I hope you got over that, Jimmy. I hope it happens again Sunday night.
It might.
Okay.
It might.
You never know. Hey, by the way, let's send out kudos to some folks that did something outstanding in the world of sports. One great, one hilarious. Dangerous Dana Allen, a longtime friend of yours truly, a member of Seneca Falls Country Club. Dana Allen, having an eagle on the 16th hole, the hardest hole, the signature hole of Seneca Falls Country Club. Dogleg right, trees both sides, water down near the green on the left.
When did he do that? Thursday night?
I'm going to say a little while ago, a few days ago, something like that I heard. Dana Allen, an eagle with a 5-wood, excuse me, a 5-wood on the 16th hole in the hole for a deuce. Folks, that's impressive.
It's amazing.
If you had a chance to watch the PGA, by the way, CBS's and TNT coverage was just horrific.
I
cannot describe how ugly that coverage was. If you're going to show commercials every 3 minutes, I understand they got to pay for this stuff.
At least be different commercials.
Yeah, let them be different. The same commercials. I love that guy that does the National Car Rental. He was one of my favorite actors.
Yeah. Then
but every 5 seconds you get it. I mean, it's just brutal.
The Rory McIlroy Hall of Fame commercial with the Omega watches was just, it's going to be in my nightmares.
TNT and CBS for the PGA Championships, they did, and I understand it went countrywide, even global-wide. People were complaining big time on the social media about CBS and TNT partnership. It was by far the worst coverage. What upset me is Emil hits a shot on 14 in the 9 feet away from the pin. You don't find out about it until 18 minutes later. Really? 18 minutes. I could have gone on, made myself a bologna sandwich, made a salad. Come on. Show us some golf. It was ridiculously brutal coverage. It was by far the worst. I was hoping that
Fox's U.S. Open was better.
Yeah. I was hoping that everybody in there's only 4 majors. It's not like there's 44 folks. They should follow the lead of the Masters. The Masters is by far, that's why it's called the Masters. Why is that? They got 2 or 3 major sponsors. Cadillac for years. They have 2 or 3 major sponsors. They get a lot of money from those sponsors. I agree. It's corporate America. They got a lot of money to give out. But what they do, they limit commercials. The Masters does. They limit it to 2 or 3 minutes an hour.
Yeah, well, in other sports,
An hour.
they have set breaks.
Why can't the other majors do that?
In other sports, they have set breaks, and they'll wait. Like in football, they'll wait
Yes.
before they kick off till they come back from commercial. But they're not going to stop golfing in the middle, to wait for a commercial break. So you miss
I know.
a lot of action. And then when CBS throws in twice as many commercials as any other golf
It was
tournament
brutal.
I've ever seen.
Absolutely
Yeah,
brutal.
You wonder whether what you're watching is live.
I agree. It was
You never
brutal.
know when the shot was taken and so
Yep.
on. It loses continuity.
Well, TNT came up with a new understanding of what that stands for. Terrible, nauseous, and terrible. I mean, it was just brutal. I mean, I love watching golf on TV, but I'm spoiled by the Masters. I don't know why the other three majors can't do the same thing as the Masters.
Well, what about the real
Limited coverage.
The real thing we should be talking about is that Jason Day is
Day.
a great champion.
So close.
He held off the number one player in the world, Jordan Spieth,
Yes, he did.
For 18 holes, looking him square in the eye. And
Yep.
what a time for golf. Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth from America, Jason Day. It's almost going back to like the Greg Norman,
know.
Nick Faldo,
Ernie Els.
and Ernie Els. And so people were wondering what was going to happen when, how are we going to transition from Tiger Woods? Well, I think it's better than ever. It's better than maybe it's ever been.
By the way, people are saying how Donald Trump is so popular. A, because he's a billionaire, and B, says things that we all want to say that we're afraid to say. But I gotta admit, I am a little surprised at Crazy John Daly. He's still being invited to somebody's tour. He got invited to the PGA because he won one
He's
at Crooked
exempt.
Stick, so he's exempt for the PGA the rest of his life. But I gotta tell you something funny. One of the funniest things happened over the weekend. If you didn't see it, it's funny. He's struggling with his game. He's having a hard time breaking 80. He gets up on this hole, par 3, lake to the right, slashes one in the water. Okay, re-tees. Next one, slashes that in the water. And he's hitting about a wedge, by the way. The third one in the water. Comes off the tee. He's got his wedge. The lake is to the right. Turns around. Flings it in the lake.
Right into Lake Michigan.
Splash. What's the good story? Emil and his son are out boating one day. Guess what? The club comes flying in the lake. They back up. The kid grabs the wedge out of the lake, holds it up, and it's going to make his bedroom for sure. Classic John Daly. I love it. He's going to get probably a $10,000 fine, and he might have a hard time coming up with that cash because he don't cash any more checks hardly on the PGA Tour. Oh, by the way, he missed the cut, but hilarious. John Daly wings that pitching wedge into the lake, and the kid grabs it, and his father's giving him high fives. It was funny. Hey, let's get back and talk to Emil, and then we'll wrap up in a few minutes and give us a chance to give you some upcoming guests. Emil, I came here prepared to talk about my wife's complaint, and I've lived with this woman a long time, and when she has something to vent, she wants me to vent. She says the parking regulations in downtown town of Seneca Falls, she hates the 2-hour scenario where you have to get your car out of there and move. Could you explain the reasoning behind the policy, A, and is 2 hours fair to Mary and to other people who are complaining to me about it?
Well, one of the things we've continually presented with are questions about parking.
Yep.
Downtown, over in the Bridge Street,
Right.
Beard Street area, constantly, almost every meeting. So one of the problems downtown, the business association and the store owners were concerned about people who would leave their cars out front all day. Some of them were merchants and so on. So there always has been a 2-hour limit, and we started to enforce it a couple years ago. We have a traffic person. Currently, it's Bill Regal, who's doing a very good job.
He's everywhere, yeah.
He's also on the school board. He's one of our good volunteers. So yes, we have been enforcing it, and we are doing a parking study to try to decide what to do with the parking situation, because when there's a big event, there is not enough parking. So that's why there is a 2-hour limit. We'll certainly study different options. We could have meters downtown. In Auburn, they have meters. That might be a possibility. We're trying to facilitate the flow. I apologize to your wife. She'll probably be upset with me, but
No, she won't.
that's the idea. I didn't realize it took more than 2 hours to get your hair cut.
Sometimes
done,
those
but
hair-
when I go to see Tony the barber, sometimes it's a 3.5-hour educational experience. So I'm sympathetic. One thing this board has done is it's taken every complaint and the board in general, we've taken every complaint seriously, and when people talk to us about these things, it's just hard to balance everything.
Sure. Okay. Well, Mary, I pass it on to my friend Emil, and he is going to analyze it, and who knows, something may change. I like the idea of the meters. Why not put the meters in there? You put the money in the meters and
Go a throwback.
Right.
What's wrong with the meters?
We used to have meters.
Yeah, what's wrong?
And now
In the
they
70s.
have the setups where you go to a kiosk and you put your credit card
Bingo.
in, and you get your hour and a half or so, and so on. So that, but we want there to be flow and
No, I know.
transitions for these. A lot of these merchants, it's not a 2-hour situation. It's
Right.
15 or 20 minutes, and it's so you got some conflicting issues there.
No, it's been a situation in Seneca Falls for decades, really,
Yeah.
the parking situation. And then there's been some improvements made over the years, but there's a limited number of space, and sometimes it gets busy down there, especially around the lunch hour.
Yeah.
And if you own a business in downtown
Right.
where you have people walking in and coming
Right.
in for lunch or whatever they're coming in for at your business, you want them to have easy access. Otherwise, they're going to keep driving.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're almost out of time. We got a couple more minutes. Emil, as you look forward down the rest of your stay with the town board, what's going to come up in the next few weeks that you're working on right now? Or anything changing down the road, or any new things that you're working on?
Well, I think right now it's probably implementing the building and things like that. One thing that will be coming up, and when I was mentioning some of the departments, I didn't mention the assessor's office. We hired probably one of the finest assessors in the area.
He's great. Yeah, he was on the
Don
show.
Collins.
He was great.
And next, he is currently preparing for the new revaluation, which is going to happen next year. So sometime in February or March, property owners are going to get a notice of their new assessment, and then there'll be a process of complaints, taking complaints, making adjustments, going before the Board of Assessment Review, and hopefully July 1st next year we'll have a new tax roll, which will have a much higher tax base, which should be good. It should lower the tax rate. So there's going to be a little bit of pain when you get your assessment and it's gone up. Nobody likes that, but you've got to remember the most important thing is we're going to increase the whole tax base. I think it's about $380 million now. It should go up. Hopefully it'll go up 20% or so, and that means the tax rate goes down. So that's good.
When's the last time we had an assessment change?
2007, there was a proposed assessment in 2011, but it was bad timing because of the recession, and people were rightfully concerned because they had an assessment of their property, which is based on fair market value, but they were correct. I could never sell my house in this market for that much, but it really is a scientific process. It's not something subjective that Dan does. All sorts of data that he's been collecting, and we're looking forward to that.
Good.
I mean, one of the concerns people have is, what are we going to do when the landfill isn't here and we don't get that $2.5 million?
Right.
So that's one of the things that should ease the tax burden. The other thing we're doing is the Development Corporation is trying to hire an executive director to take the calls, do the local development. I mean, this is a crucial time with the casino. People are interested in locating here. They need somebody to call and talk to. So we're interviewing candidates, and we hope to have somebody in place. And the town's going to really have to finance that for 2 or 3 years, and it's not going to be a small number. It could be $125,000 or $150,000 a year till we get it up and running, and it's able to generate its own cash flow.
Good. Well, Emil, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. And again, even though you're on your swan song leaving the end of the year, I want to say you've been personally, and other people have told me about your abilities. You've been a positive influence for the town board, and thank you for your service.
It's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure seeing you, being here with you, and it's our community, and it's important to give back, and let's leave it a better place when we're all said and done.
All right, Emil. By the way, folks, just a quick rundown. We're running a little past 10 this morning. Let's talk about upcoming guests. Next week, a very special show. I know Jimmy's excited, so am I. Sports Director of Channel 9, Stephen Fani. By the way, went to Bishop Ludden. I didn't know that. I found out the other day. They knew he was coming on the show, and he mentioned that he's a Syracuse guy. So Stephen Fani, Channel 9 Sports Director, will be on the phone doing a 15, 20-minute phone interview next Monday on the Weber Show. We tried to get him here, obviously, but he's got a tough schedule on Mondays and Tuesdays, so he agreed to a phone interview. We look forward to him talking about SU football, SU sports, Jim Boeheim, a host of other things in our 15, 20-minute interview with Stephen Fonte, Channel 9 Sports Director, Orange Nation. And we're looking forward to that show next week. And then on the 31st of the month, the last Monday, obviously, of August, Josh Durso, who does the In Focus editorials every couple of weeks for the Finger Lakes Times. I've always been impressed with his writing. He'll be on the couch talking about how he got involved in doing that kinds of things. He does a very fine job. He brings up items for discussion. His latest one, I believe, was regarding Lago, the effects of Lago Casino, good and bad. So he'll be here on the couch on the 31st. We're off on Labor Day, and then we're going to bring in on the 14th new business on called the West Side Italian Eatery. That's south of Geneva. Used to be Francesco's. Jenna and Tommy Coons will be our guest on the show. We're basically scheduled right now up to October the 12th. So if you want to come on my program, we'd love to have you. Just let me or Jimmy know, and we'll book you a date. It won't be until, like I say, mid-October, and we hope to have you come in, and that's what the reason this show is here.
Hey, Doug, real quick. Tonight, 9 o'clock, Finger Lakes Golfer Podcast, PGA Championship Review, Doug Brown, Rhett DeConey, Bob LaPrade, and myself in studio talking for an hour about the great tournament. We're going to do a couple other items, but it should be a good show tonight at 9 live here on Finger Lakes 1 TV.
All right. So speaking for Emil Bove and for owner and director of this show, Jimmy Senecrobi, this is Dog, wishing you a very pleasant weekend. Folks, again, it's going to be real hot today, so take care of yourself. I'm serious. It's going to be 94, so liquids and stay out of the sun too long. All right, folks, take care. That's Weber This Week.
By becoming a patron of FingerLakes1.com. Visit patreon.com/FL1.
FingerLakes1.com. Come on and join